You're listening to Assurity's Good Business Podcast. I'm Matt. This is part 2 of our 2-part series with WholeFoods Market, featuring Nona Evans, Executive Director of Whole Kids Foundation and Whole Cities Foundation, and Andres Traslavinia, Director of Global Recruiting. If you haven't listened to the first part, we recommend you do before listening to this episode. For those of you coming back, here's a quick recap.
You know, as a mission-driven company, Whole Foods Market has always been clear on its purpose. It's been stated different ways over the years. So the higher purpose at Whole Foods is nourishing people and the planet. And the company has so many different ways that it engages the community. Just one of the approaches that the company has created to address enormous world challenges is the creation of independent foundations. And that's where I come in. Over the past 16 years, the company has established Whole Planet Foundation, which works to alleviate poverty in the developing world, Whole Kids, working to improve children's nutrition, and Whole Cities, which is dedicated to fostering relationships with community-led organizations so that we can create more access to fresh, healthy food.
Yeah, I just want to maybe highlight one of the tangible ways that Whole Foods Market has to get the foundations closer to team members, and I had the opportunity to experience that, and we do offer a 2-week volunteer program through the Whole Planet Foundation to go and visit one of these countries where we have partnerships with microfinance institutions. And I think it's just amazing to have an opportunity as a team member, whether you are, at a store or at the corporate office, to travel and actually see in real life how your foundation is helping communities around the world.
Whole Foods is amazing and makes the opportunity for participation with our foundations through these types of volunteer activities open to every team member. There are a few criteria if you're considering one of the travel trips. I think team members need to be with the company for a year, but across all the foundations, there is truly something for everyone.
This week, we're back with Nona and Andres to bring the Whole Foods mission back around to the business side of good business. Last time, we learned how Whole Foods Market uses its 3 independent foundations to fulfill its mission of nourishing people and the planet. For this episode, we're digging into how their mission focus has an impact on recruiting and culture, and some of the challenges Whole Foods has faced as a fast-growing, responsible business. Last episode, Andres had this to say about the relationship between mission and recruiting.
I lead a lot of my conversations with candidates around talking about our mission. Our mission is to nourish people and the planet, right? And but we have core values. We have a set of leadership principles. But the thought about making the world a healthier place, it's kind of embodies our mission. And I think the work that Nona and her teams do through the foundations, it's a very tangible way for us to explain the mission of Whole Foods Market as it reveals in many different ways, right? So I feel that aside from the hype of coming to Whole Foods Market because everything that's happening in retail, because of the acquisition with Amazon, because of the technology that it's occurring in grocery retail, candidates gravitate towards Whole Foods Market because of the mission, because of the core values.
But the mission focus does more than help attract candidates. It acts as a way to ensure that quality hires are making their way to the right positions, and for Andres, helps to guide the hiring process.
Yeah, we do have a great brand. People gravitate towards wanting to be in a place where they could be happy at the end of the day. People want to, go back home and be happy for their families. And there is so much disengagement today in the workforce. I mean, sometimes the surveys say that it's, about 70% or about 65%. I don't know. It varies every year. But the truth is that for some reason, people are not engaged at work or in general. So people gravitate towards those companies who can offer not just ideal roles, but a place where they can be happy. and that creates a challenge, believe it or not. We we have more applicants than what we could handle sometimes, right? And it provides a challenge because we do also want to provide a great candidate experience. And when you have 1.7 million applicants for 50,000 jobs, which is kind of the average number that we have in a year, it's hard to say no more than saying yes, right? So it's a balance between having the right assessments, the right filters to ensure that the candidates that are applying and that are not qualified for jobs, hear back from Whole Foods Market. But at the same time, we need to spend the time required with the candidates that are qualified and that eventually will become team members. So I think our interview process will probably take a little longer than the average. We are very collaborative in that process. We take candidates through multiple steps. One of the steps is called due diligence, where we offer the candidates to speak with multiple stakeholders. At the end of the process, we have at the stores and at the corporate office, it's a little different, but we have a panel interview where we invite different stakeholders to be a part of this interview. So as you can imagine, scheduling this panel interview takes a little time. In a nutshell, it's a great problem to have, and it's a joy to keep speaking about mission and to turn the conversation that eventually gets candidates to be more excited about Whole Foods Market, around the things that make Whole Foods Market great, like the foundations, our missions, or any of the tangible ways that we have to highlight that aspect of our mission.
Andres was sure to bring up that a mission focused business has impacts on its team members even after the hire. As we've seen time and time again, people simply want to work for something bigger than themselves and the profits of their company.
There is an app that I read every day, and it's called Blind. Blind, it's a forum for engineers, product managers to talk to one another. It's anonymous. And through the app you can see testimonials of people talking about their successful careers. And oftentimes you find engineers that are very successful but are looking for that purpose, for that for that mission, or to become a part of something bigger than themselves. I mean, it's a very tangible way of understand how people don't just want to make a lot of money, because they do. I mean, engineers do make a lot of money, but aside from that, they want to come home happy for their kids, and they want to feel a part of a mission. Could be a Whole Foods Market, but it could be at a company that offers a similar kind of environment, right?
Making efforts to be better for the world has impacts in hiring and employee happiness, to be sure. Even we at Assurity can tell you that. But what's always exciting to learn from businesses like Whole Foods Market are the ways that responsible business initiatives help to grow the organization and contribute to business goals.
You know, we had talked, previously, and I understand that much of your audience are probably business focused, and I think it's important that Whole Foods Market really exemplifies the fact that doing good is good business. So I just wanted to offer that for those who might be considering, their strategies. One of the examples that I love to share is Whole Kids Foundation during COVID. Not the best timing, but we did it anyway. We launched a young entrepreneurs program. We actually know that 70% of students in high school today want to start their own business. That's what they view as their career. So we thought if we could find the 20% of the 70% who have a passion around health or growing food or cooking, that we could grow the next generation of health conscious leaders. So that's our mission. But what we know is that while we're doing that, and it's not our mission, but we're also growing the next generation of suppliers for Whole Foods Market stores and team members and customers. So I would encourage, those out there in business or who work for businesses to know that doing good can really support good business goals.
But of course, rapid business growth doesn't come without its own set of challenges. Whole Foods moving into new markets means that Andres is trying to reach and recruit talent they've never needed before, which is challenging even when the world isn't in the midst of a deadly pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, in recruiting, we are now recruiting talent that we've never recruited before, right? We're recruiting the best software engineers, for instance, to work on our digital products that would enable the best online shopping experience for grocery retail. And the challenge is that Whole Foods Market hasn't been known as a tech company for a long time, right? When you were a student in college, you would go to the career fairs, and if you wanted to be an engineer or wanting to do a career in tech, obviously all the companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, I don't know, you would be exposed to those brands early on. So we're very quickly trying to shift the mindset and attract people who otherwise wouldn't be attracted to work at Whole Foods Market. Um, and that obviously creates a challenge when you're competing with companies that for a long time have recruited the best engineers. That's one challenge. The other challenge that has been presented due to the pandemic and due to the fact that we're not together is that we're bringing a new set of talent, new roles, and when you have a company that's so collaborative, and when we depend so much on one another, because success at Whole Foods Market, it's when you leverage cross-functional partnerships. But I feel that the lack of seeing each other in person and the lack of that physical presence could make that transition a little bit more difficult, right? So those are things that come with growing really fast at a time when we have to take all the precautions and be very mindful of that, team member safety and our clients safety come first, right?
And even on the nonprofit foundation side of the business, there are challenges that have arisen due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But Nona and her team have met these challenges in creative ways.
I think the foundation challenges are similar to some of those that Andres mentioned. We're relationship driven. All of our work is based on the deep relationships we have with those we serve. And we've had to learn how to connect in new and virtual ways. I miss seeing people, on my travels and getting to be with kids in school. But I will say, this time has forced us to get creative, and I think it will forever change how we do business. I travel every Friday now. I pick a location that has meaning. I figure out who all the stakeholders are that I want to talk to in that place, and just that virtual habit puts me in a frame of mind that has been so useful. So, one Friday I might talk to all of the leaders with organizations that we work with in New York, because there is a culture in New York that you tap into if you were to be there. And when you group those conversations, you get a little bit of that same sense and feeling. So, I think uh, all of the challenges that the business side has faced, we face, and we're just tenacious and convicted in finding new ways to do what we do.
With all the success that Whole Foods Market has had, we wanted to know what advice Andres and Nona have for other businesses looking to make a difference. And they had some fantastic wisdom to share.
I think I summarize everything with caring, right? If the person really cares, if a leader cares for their employees and team members and peers, um, it goes long ways, right? And it's just little things like what Nona said at the beginning. Appreciations. We do this practice at the end of every meeting where we ask the floor, does anybody have any appreciations for a team member or for each other? So there are simple things, the things that leaders can do to engage and to invest in their workforce, uh, are time investments, because it'll require time, but most of them are free, right? And I think, as I think about and I reflect about this whole time, I think about my family, I think about my health, I think about the important things that truly matter in life. And my dad shared with me a poem by Jorge Luis Borges, and in a nutshell, it summarizes how, as an old man, when you're 85, you're not going to miss the meetings that you missed at work, or the paper that you didn't submit on time at the university, or that meeting that you didn't schedule, or that interview that you missed. But you will miss the time that you spent with your wife, with your daughter, or that dream that you have of traveling around the world, right? Of that sport that you never picked up. So my point is, like, leaders have to help employees connect what matters the most to them to their everyday lives, and at the end of the day, people will be intrinsically motivated by working and doing what they do.
Yes, I'll go to the other end of the spectrum on the lesson front. I think the thing I would advocate most strongly for is don't overthink it. Doing good requires that you start. And, with our foundations, we are continually adapting and adjusting. The most successful efforts that I see come from organizations who are willing to dive in and learn and adjust. There's also a willingness to collaborate that is absolutely essential. So, when it comes to nonprofits, we can't afford to spend even one penny on a lesson that somebody else has learned. It just seems counterintuitive, but we collaborate with the foundations of other grocery companies because when it comes to addressing some of these enormous world issues, competition just does not create a good return on investment.
That collaboration, caring, and relationship building runs deep at Whole Foods Market. Here at the end of our episode, we even got to see firsthand some of the appreciations that Andres mentioned earlier.
I don't get to tell Nona enough how much I admire her. I mean, she obviously doesn't talk a lot about what she's done and all the influence that she's had, not just on the foundations, but by by modeling leaders like Nona, team members every day are inspired. And I mean, as you can see, I mean, she's just an amazing example of someone that's emotionally intelligent, very passionate about what she does. So I don't get to tell you this enough, Nona, but in public, thank you for inspiring me every day, and obviously all the team members that are at Whole Foods Market.
Wow, thank you. Right back at you.
We've learned a lot from Whole Foods Market. I, for one, had no idea how much the company did outside of grocery retail and was absolutely amazed. If you want to learn more about Whole Foods and their foundations, you can visit the company at www.wholefoodsmarket.com or any of their foundations at wholekidsfoundation.org, wholecitiesfoundation.org, or wholeplanetfoundation.org. At the end of our episodes, we like to thank our guests for their time by making a $100 donation to the charitable organization of their choice. Here are the organizations that Nona and Andres picked.
I'll dive in. It is not necessary. Getting to have these kinds of dialogues is a contribution in and of itself. But since you gave us an opportunity to spotlight an organization, I will do that. So Whole Foods Market is headquartered in Austin, Texas, and some of your listeners might know we were recently devastated by some extreme winter weather. Farm Share Austin is a partner of Whole Cities Foundation. They do amazing work training the next generation of farmers and providing fresh produce via mobile markets to neighborhoods around the cities that don't normally have access to it. So you can learn a ton more about Farm Share Austin on the Whole Cities blog. You can even take a virtual field trip of their farm.
Yeah, so there is so many. I mean, local organizations that are doing amazing things. Worldwide organizations that are also contributing to the world communities. But I go back to my home country and an organization that I support. Their name is Colombianitos, and they support the education of kids through soccer. So it's an organization founded by Patricia Janot. She's the main anchor of Univision, and I had the chance to meet her, and I had the chance to tour one of the communities in a very poor community in Bogota. So I go back to where I come from, and if you gave me the opportunity to talk about them, that's who I went for.
You can learn more about FarmShare Austin on their website, www.farmshareaustin.org, and Colombianitos at www.colombianitos.org. That's COLOMBIANITOS.org. We'd like once again to thank Nona and Andres for their time and expertise. It was a truly fascinating journey and an impact that we can all aspire to. Thanks for listening to Assurity's Good Business podcast. Assurity's Good Business is a production of Assurity Life Insurance Company of Lincoln, Nebraska. If you have questions or comments or want to submit an episode topic or guest for us to interview, you can visit us online at www.assurity.com/goodbusiness or send us a note at goodbusiness@assurity.com. And if you like what you hear, subscribe and listen to the rest of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram to stay up to date. Join us again next time for more stories about how businesses are changing the world. After all, it's good business. Assurity is a marketing name for the mutual holding company Assurity Group Incorporated and its subsidiaries. Those subsidiaries include but are not limited to Assurity Life Insurance Company and Assurity Life Insurance Company of New York.